Makini Smith. In 2009, while going through a divorce, I decided to jump straight into entrepreneurship. In 2012, I lost my sister and asked myself, what legacy do I want to leave behind? Since then, I've become a serial entrepreneur, helping other women publish their books, produce their podcasts, and reach their big goals to walk in their greatness. I realized the importance of sharing our stories of resilience and how it can be another's guide to walk in a manner worthy of their calling. We are blessed to be a blessing, so get ready to be blessed with an inspiring testimony. Hey, Faith Walkers, thank you for joining us on the A Walk in My Stilettos podcast, where we have conversations with amazing women that are letting us step into their shoes. I help women to strengthen their resilience muscle, own their stories, conquer their fears so they can reach their goals. I get inspired when I see another woman succeeding, but what interests me more is her backstory and her mindset on how she got there. So today's guest is about to bless us with her testimony, and since you're already here, you may as well subscribe. Today we have Africa Miranda. She is an internationally known beauty and travel influencer whose brand inspires women everywhere to embrace their inner light. She's a host, executive producer, beautypreneur, and digital personality. In 2006, she launched Beauty by Africa Miranda, a skincare line inspired by world travel. Her 2018 book release, Step Up, Step Out, and Shine, teaches readers how to build their own global brands. Dedicated to empowering other women to step intentionally into the media space, Africa is helping a new generation of creators reach their highest potential through her media workshops. Africa has built a 6-figure plus digital presence and partnered with the largest brands in the world like Facebook, Uber, Macy's, and Kia Motors. Please welcome to the show, Africa.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on and share your story with us.
I'm excited to be here.
I love to start the show with an icebreaker question because I believe that as women, we have all these different titles that we go by. But a title that I feel is not given enough significance is our name, because our names have meaning. And every time someone says your name, they're declaring that meaning to you. My name is unique. We have a lot of women that come on with unique names. So sometimes it's just understanding why your parents named you what they named you. So I would love to know, Africa, what is the story behind your name?
Oh, well, my father was very active in the civil rights movement in the 70s. He was a member of the Black Panther Party. So it's like kind of a short version, but, that is where the name came from.
I love it. I love it. I believe that as women, sometimes who we turn out to be has something to do with what we desire to be as little girls, when we were using our vivid imaginations. And sometimes what we wanted to be as a little girl evolved into who we are presently. So I would love to know, before we get into where you are today, do you recall what you wanted to be when you were a little girl?
When I was very small, I don't know that I ever had like a specific picture of what I wanted to be. I loved Whitney Houston, so, and I loved growing up, I loved performing. I was played violin, ballet, and all those things. So I knew that I just wanted to be creative. So it was never really, I wasn't, very much like, oh, I want to be a fireman or this or that. I just wanted to continue to be creative. And so in many ways, I'm doing, while I'm not, I don't think that I could have foresaw or seen, that I'm doing the things that, now then. But to some degree, I am kind of fulfilling the things that I wanted to do, because I did always want to travel and see the world and, have great experiences. So that it was more of things that I wanted to experience rather than what I wanted to be.
Okay. So, you say you've traveled all over the world. Do you know how many countries you've traveled?
Maybe 30, I think 31, 32, somewhere in there.
Awesome.
So not,
I love it.
Not as many as most, but I feel like it's it's a decent number.
It's still a really good number. Listen, I know people that have not left their area code their entire life. Okay. And I'm 40 years old.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that's a really good number. So I would love to know, what's the story behind how you got into media?
I started in media. I would say what I'm doing now really as a model. I like a commercial model and actress. I was the face of ad campaigns for beauty brands like Cream of Nature, ORS, Girls Unleashed, and God, everybody from like the Discovery Channel. And I just started, working a lot as, a commercial actress and model. And then from there, social media was growing and kind of, I guess, becoming a thing. Like I was always an early adopter of most of the platforms. I was on Twitter since 2008. Instagram, I was on Instagram even back before it was a social media app, when it was just a photo editing app. And then it transitioned into, the social media apps and space that we have now. So it really was just kind of by happenstance, really. I just enjoyed social media and like that, connecting in that way. And honestly, like from just growing a presence on social media, that led to more traditional media opportunities. And now, the work that I do in the digital space.
I love it. I love it. I've been a follower of yours for years on Instagram. And I know, like, I don't even know how I started following. I was scrolling. I think someone may have tagged you in something. I seen a picture. I just seen all of this beautiful hair. Your hair was curly. It was out. You had
Oh,
bright
thank you.
colors. You were traveling. I was like, I am going to follow her. These images inspire me. She is beautiful. So
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
you're welcome. So I would love to know what inspired the Beauty by Africa brand.
That actually came, really from a conversation with one of my sorority sisters. I launched the brand in 2016, but she and I had this conversation maybe late 2014, early 2015. And, at that point I had been doing, again, a lot of work with brands and, in the traditional media space as model, but then I was also starting to have brand partnerships on social media and, very much was known as someone, that could recommend great products and things that I was using and experiences. And I never really, I thought that, something of my own would be something that I would do eventually, but I didn't really, one, know even how to do it, and two, just if it was the right time. And I had connected on social with one of my sorority sisters who lives in Chicago, and she is a cosmetic chemist. Her name is Erica Douglas, and she's known on social media as Sister Scientist. And I was going to be in Chicago for a shoot. I reached out and we got together, and, small world, she was the chemist behind a lot of the hair brands that I had been the face of. And she was one of the first people to ask me, when was I going to do something of my own? And we just really, at the time she was launching her own, consulting arm and lab to really help people that, had small businesses or wanted to start brands, like really give them a pathway to creation. And I started working with her and her team, and we just started kind of looking at, again, what was, what in terms of a brand story, what is my story? What are things that I'm passionate about? What do I enjoy? What are big parts of my life, and how can I continue to tell my life story through products and things that I create? And travel has always been something that's been a huge part of my life, and it just made sense to make that part of this, the brand story. So Beauty by Africa Miranda's brand story is that, these are products that are inspired by global destinations, that I visited. And each product is considered, I like to call them, a travel souvenir, because the products are, have ingredients that are from each place, but they also evoke from either the scent or the feel or the result, something that I felt when I was, in these different places and destinations. So it's really just to encourage, the love of travel, the love of beauty, and just, my personal take and spin on it.
I love how you've been able to, connect and combine all the things that you are and that you love, with travel and beauty and, modeling and being like, for all of the women listening, sometimes they think, oh, well, I love this and I love that, but how can I monetize this, or how can I make this into a thing? But you've been able to like find a beautiful combination of them all.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's definitely been a process. Yeah.
I can only imagine. So what has your journey been like since the pandemic? Like, has it affected how you serve? Has it affected, how you market, as an influencer? Has it affected your Beauty by Africa Miranda brand?
Definitely. I mean, it's affected everything. I have to have a beauty brand that's based on travel. Well, no one's traveling. So there was definitely a pivot in the messaging because, I really also look at my products as, ways to encourage self-care and a moment to honor yourself, and create those special moments wherever you are. So if you can't travel, you can have those experiences at home. And that's been a message rather that's done really well. But then also, as many manufacturers are dealing with over the summer, the spring and summer, is that once everything hit, a lot of supply chain shut down. So I had an issue where, I was out of stock of a lot of products for part of the summer. You're we had to make some changes in packaging so that I could even have some packaging. So it was just really, it was a time for us, I think, for all creatives and business owners and really everyone to recognize that, you absolutely had to be open, to change and, and really just be able to pivot. And that's what I had to do. And then in terms of personally, like I left New York, I moved to Atlanta. My family's in Alabama, so to be closer, to them and just not be so isolated in terms of if how long this continues and things like that. So it really just has been a year of, just you have to just be open to change. I mean, and I think that I've always been someone that's been open to doing that in my career, but I would say 2020 is definitely a year that challenged that even more. But I will say that in many ways, there are definitely, opportunities and travel things that I was supposed to do this year that did not happen. But then I also was blessed with some other really great things that, have happened for me that I don't know would have happened if I wasn't, present and physically like here in the States and slowing down. So I've just really looked at this year, and as I look at all years, but really more so this one, what can I learn, and what is it that I'm supposed to be, supposed to recognize and experience right now.
And, like you said, there's been a lot of changes in 2020, a lot of adjustments, a lot of pivots, and I find, whoever is able to adapt, the quickest will be able to get through this the easiest. So how do you stay motivated? Like, you've had to move, you had to pivot your messaging, you haven't been able to travel. How do you stay motivated?
Well, I mean, I think the key is that you don't always, or just acknowledging that you don't always stay motivated. I have not been, motivated at every point of this year. I just accept that, when I feel it, I go with it. And when I don't necessarily try to really push myself through it to create or do things just for the sake of creating or staying busy. So I just really kind of listen to my spirit to say like what feels right, what doesn't. And also just recognizing that like we're in the midst of a very traumatic, like this is a very traumatic time for human beings, from the pandemic to what's going on in our country and just all over the world. And I'm not going to put the same expectations on myself of creative output and work that I would if all of these things weren't going on. And I think that has helped me, recognize that I'm going to be more consistent at times. I'm going to be less consistent at times. And it's just changed what my baseline is. And it's made it a lot easier to get through this year.
Giving yourself that grace.
Definitely.
So what inspires you the most about what you do?
Honestly, for me, when people that like I've never met or even people that I know will reach out and say, oh, I tried this, because you said it, or, were you sharing XYZ made me want to share this or do something different in my life. Like I've just always been someone that's been open to trying new things because I know what it can do for you just as a person. And to know that I've had any type of impact, however small, on someone else to do the same for me is what is a really big piece of, inspirational piece for me to keep going.
Leading by example. Yep. So what advice would you give to a woman right now that's considering becoming an online influencer, especially in this time?
My first would be, really ask yourself why. I mean, there's a lot of people that see, oh, well, there's, people are posting and brands are paying them or they're being sent, products or they're going on these experiences and they want to do that. But I would still really challenge people to ask themselves why, because the part is that for people like myself or other people that have been doing this for, a considerable amount of time and have had some modicum of, success, and I say success in quotes, is that, financial or otherwise, is that there's a lot of work to get to this point that you did not see. It's like, yes, it's like I might be having these great opportunities in, 2020, but I've been, working very hard and building my brand on social media for almost 10 years. And not to say that you have to wait 10 years to do it, because I mean, there's a lot shorter paths to success these days, but it's more than just, popping on social media, like posting a couple of pretty pictures and, and going on about your way and then thinking that you're going to wake up and have these great financial opportunities. It's really, about asking yourself, like, what is it that you're trying to offer? How do you want to serve your audience? What is it that you're trying to pour into them? Because that's where if your focus is just doing it so that you can get brand opportunities or make money or do certain things, you'll find it can be a very frustrating experience, because what you'll find is that the people that are getting the opportunities that you covet are getting them because they've built community first.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be my thing, is that if you're interested in doing this, is there's absolutely space for it. I tell everybody, like, do it. It's great. But, ask yourself what your goals are and what your real reasons for, what is your real reason for doing it, and what type of community do you desire to build? Because that is where these other, extraneous things are going to come from.
Right. Right. Yeah. Like asking, is it from a place of service or is it from a place of self ego? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what's one thing that most people don't know about Africa?
Mm, I would say, I feel like the thing I hear the most, and this is just from like close friends or people that like get to know me, better, is maybe my sense of humor, that I'm more funny than they expected, because I am like, that's probably the thing that I hear the most. And I don't know, it's not that I don't share that side on social, but like, I don't know, like there's not necessarily a way to always show your humor, I guess, in that way. So that's probably the thing I hear the most.
Okay. So what are some of the adversities that you've had to experience to get to where you are today?
I would say the main piece of adversity is that like what I'm doing didn't exist 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So it's like you're creating your life, you are creating your work. And that in and of itself is like a Herculean task. Like it's just, it
Mm-hmm.
did not exist. And even to this day, like the work that I do, I create my opportunities. I create literally my financial opportunities. So if I don't feel like doing anything, then, there's also a chance that if I don't feel like doing anything for long, then that will affect 3 months from now, what my income statement
Mm-hmm.
is. So, I would say that's the biggest adversity, is like that I have been, to be the master of your own ship. And I mean, God ultimately is the master first, but in terms of, what I'm doing here in the flesh, it's, that is like, that's a lot, it's a lot of pressure. And it's really, trying to figure out how to stay true to what you want, and understanding when something's not working and when you have to walk away from things and trying something new. It can be
Mm-hmm.
terrifying because, we're also, those of us that do what we do, we've built our livelihoods on these, on these platforms, and they could go away. And, and then what are you doing in the meantime? You
Right.
even look at a year like 2020, so many, who would have thought that all of the things that we do every day, we can't do? And think about how many business models were based on that, and plans that people had. And if you weren't, I've just always been someone that's a saver. And I don't know if it's a Capricorn in me. I'm always just like, I want to just have a little bit more stability. So I was prepared financially for things to slow down, but I also know that there are a lot of people that weren't. And I know I'm very thankful, and it was a blessing, but it's still like, that's still a stress. It's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
if things were slow this year, then you couldn't necessarily, then what's your setup for next year? So it's this life. It's the blessing of my life, is that I get to have, very wonderful opportunities, a lot of which I create, a lot of which that kind of fall in my lap that I never would have dreamed of. But, the other terrifying part of it is that, a year like this shows you that none of it's guaranteed.
Right.
And, it's like, well, should you go work at a regular company and, get paid twice a month and have, these benefits and things, but even that's not guaranteed. So, I mean, that really for me over these years has been the biggest adversity, of just the feast and famine, of what it is that I do. And it's constantly changing and constantly growing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Even I was thinking as you were saying that, when you're talking about, I guess when you've created these opportunities, as being a brand influencer. So I have a 19-year-old daughter who is like, when she was 16, her Instagram account blew up. She has no idea how. She didn't do anything, but a lot of
Mm-hmm.
hair accounts and beauty accounts started reposting her. And she went from like, I don't know, 16,000 followers to 350 or something, like 50,000. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And then she got hacked last January. And that year she was, making money from Instagram. Like
Mm-hmm.
she was making probably more than I was. And
Mm-hmm.
she was having brand center stuff. She was doing all of these posts. And then when she got hacked, the hacker had her account for almost 3 months. And,
Oh my God.
obviously the feast and famine, you lose all of your income. And she was
Mm-hmm.
dependent on her Instagram account solely for all of her income. And she wasn't listening when I was saying, you should create a landing page, start collecting emails, do some other things. But she was young.
Mm-hmm.
She was 18, she doesn't listen.
Yeah.
And, it was so stressful for her. The hacker took over her identity. They were reaching out to other influencers, pretending to be her, doing collaborations,
Oh
making money,
wow.
having products sent to their house. you know,
Oh my God.
like it was crazy. God put some people in my life that put me in a position where we could get her account back. And she
Mhm.
did. And now she's 19. But even in that time when she realized, okay, I can't solely depend on Instagram alone, or I'm like, what am I going to do? And she
Right.
started a following on TikTok, and then she started focusing over there. And then her account over there went up to like 330,000 followers
Oh
in a short
wow.
period
Okay.
of time. But it's like, I keep telling her that is such a huge blessing. There are people out here that have been
Mhm.
trying for years and can't even hit those
Right.
numbers. So when you talk about the
Mhm.
feast and famine of it, it's like how easy things can either go up or go down. People just
Exactly.
assume that because, you're doing these brand partnerships, oh my God, you get this or you get that, but they don't understand there's so many ups and downs of just that alone.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Like you can't, like I just tell everyone, like I joke sometimes, I tell people like it's monopoly money. Like it's fantastic, but it can all go away. And I just really hope everybody is saving. Like that's all I can, like
Mhm.
everybody's like, what's your advice? I'm like, save your money because
Mhm.
I mean, who knew that this was happening this year? But and it's funny because like last year I had like the last couple of years have been really good. And I was like, oh, my is Christmas Eve. And I remember last year I was like, I'm going to treat myself and go buy, I don't know what I was going to go buy, but I was like, I'm going to go like splurge a bit. And then I was just coming off of like a travel project and I was really exhausted at the end of the year. My grandmother had passed away. So I just was like, oh,
Oh, my
I'm just not, I was like,
condolences.
I'm not, thank you. I appreciate it. And I was just, but I kind of just ended the year. I was exhausted. So I was like, well, I'll just wait until the spring and, maybe take a trip and, just so I didn't do
Mhm.
whatever this big splurge that I thought I was going to do for my birthday. And I just remember when the pandemic like really took hold, I was like, thank God, that I didn't, because in my head it was like, oh, it's nothing to go splurge and go spend it because I'm going to make that money back in January with like 2, 3 partners, you know what I mean? A partnership
Mhm.
or 2 or 3. And I'm just like, thank God I did not
Hmm.
spend that money. So it's just, that's really, everybody's like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm cool. I make my budget. I stick to it. I live under my means because you just, with this life, you never know.
Mhm. So, with all that has happened this year and all the uncertainties, obviously it can, pay a toll on us. So, what is your self care routine look like? How do you take care of Africa?
Uh, Therapy first and foremost. Like I've been seeing a great
Amen.
therapist in New York over the past year, and then now since I've moved to Atlanta, found a good one here. So that's been something that's been a constant, and it definitely I know that I would be processing what's happening to me in the world a lot differently if I did not have if I had not started building like that mental health toolkit. So that's been a huge piece. My faith especially because again we're in times where it's just like there's no way to explain like what's happening, like so you have to
Mm-hmm.
just kind of turn it over and just say, okay God, I mean even the things that I've been blessed with in the last couple of months, I couldn't have asked for them because I wouldn't have even known to ask for them or that I would have needed them. So that's but again that's the beauty of what he does. He
Mm-hmm.
knows what you're going to need and he makes sure that you have it, and you just you try to stay in a place of gratefulness and thankfulness. The other is meditation. I'm not great at it. It's a practice that I continue, and I was like, I will get good at this at some point, but that's a continuous practice. Mindfulness has been another that's been really transformational for me because our mind and our thoughts are just so we can either heal the world with them or like totally break ourselves apart. And it's definitely something that I work on every single day. Is like really like catching myself before I have these negative thoughts or negative things that I'm, going to say or, or just speak over myself or even other people. And,
Mm-hmm.
and then just self-care for me also is just like making sure that I stay connected with people that I love. So it's like, if we can't see everyone, then it's like, we're texting, we're FaceTiming more, we're making like Zoom catch ups, just doing what you can to, to stay connected however you can in this new space and in this new way.
Mm-hmm. Those are all so, so, so important. Thank you for sharing those. We're going to jump straight into you letting the people know where they can stay connected with you online.
Definitely. I am all platforms. I'm like Clubhouse, Twitter, Instagram, all of those at Africa Miranda. And Africa is my real first name. Miranda is my real last name. So at Africa Miranda. You can check out my products, Beauty by Africa Miranda or beautybyafricamiranda.com. AfricaMiranda.com is like my hub online. That's where you can have access to my book, which is available on Amazon and all these different things. And just one other good fun piece of info, the digital downloadable, like the digital, I guess, cop version of Step Up, Step Out and Shine, the second edition is going to be available for a very special price during the holiday season, starting Black Friday on Amazon. So for people that have the hardcover, or the paperback, that's great. But if you've also wanted one for like your Kindle or your e-reader, this version will be available with some actual, like some little new special content for the second edition as well.
Awesome. Awesome. So I will definitely put all of your links in the detailed section so they can just click and connect with you and they don't have to search too far.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I want to thank you so much, Miranda, for taking the time to join us and for sharing your story with us. I truly appreciate you.
I thank you so much and appreciate you and your audience for having me. Like this is such a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. And to all of you faith walkers out there, until next time, subscribe on all platforms. And don't forget to rate the show and leave us a review on Apple Podcast. And you can join the community of faith walkers and sign up for our newsletter at awalkinmystilettos.com. And be sure to grab one of my personal development books available online everywhere. And if you could think of one person that would receive value from today's show, please share it with them. Feel free to screenshot this week's episode and you can tag us on Instagram. You can tag Miranda at Africa Miranda and you can tag myself at The Real McKinney Smith and continue to walk in greatness in your stilettos in a manner worthy of your calling.